Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the free-to-play account, and it has absolutely been crushing it with the combination of Randy and Ivan. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at Noob's survival guide, showing you kind of breaking this down. And I also want to kind of make some adjustments in there because I feel like looking at the progression we're making right now, it's kind of incredible. Looking as right now, 29-13, we have cleared 100 stages. That's right. If you guys caught the stream a little bit earlier, we have cleared 100 additional stages in here, which again is kind of crazy with the combination of these two heroes just absolutely dominating it. So going through 29-14, yeah, and I mean, we started in 27-36. So looking at what you're even getting out of here with progression, Ivan and Randy are broken together. Now, also remember when we get a little bit further, we do have the ability, or we'll get to the point where we do have to use a multitude of teams, which is going to be incredibly difficult. But now we have Rem. We just picked up Rem, so I want to hop over, check out this guide, and let's have a look at this and see exactly the breakdown. All right, guys, so here is Noob's Survival Guide updated to 1825. Like I said, I want to break this down, and this is over on Discord. I'll put a link down below, or excuse me, over on Reddit. I'll put a link down below, but I want to break this down kind of section by section, because if you think of a newer player, if you're playing a free-to-play account, going to make a really big difference. So let's look over here at the wish list and the summoning. Now, looking at these heroes, it is imperative to really build these, and you can notice no white border, 10 copies. White border are fine at 8 copies. Only do 10x summons with diamonds because it is 2,700 diamonds versus being the full amount of diamonds itself. With scrolls, single and 10x are the same, so it doesn't make a difference. If you're using individual ones, use all faction scrolls for Greatborn. Absolutely spot on. Now, looking at the heroes we have in here, looks pretty solid. The only adjustment that I'd probably make at this point might be Adrian and Lise, because they do require a higher, a +40 signature item. I would actually probably put Rosaline in here first before I would do Adrian and Lise, but overall, Rain also does require furniture, so it's going to be a while before you're able to build Rain out. And eventually, or looking at this, it's going to be very difficult to make progression in the tower because you have no tanks. We have a lot of really squishy support heroes in here. So I feel like the Lightbearer, now looking at our Mauler, absolutely spot on. Looking at Naruko, Nimisu, again, a little bit questionable versus Curcio, but looking at Vika, Goran, and Villanelle, absolutely. Looking at the Wilders, yep, absolutely spot on. I love Aethys, quite frankly, pretty broken hero. And then, of course, we do have Tamris in here. We have Misha, which is super important. And then Greyborn, absolutely. We do have Bron in here, which, of course, can tank. We also do have Lady Simona in here. Very, very good. Silas, of course, as a flex hero in here. But overall, very, very build. Like I said, the only thing that I would probably adjust a little would be the wish list for the Lightbearers itself, just because Adrian and Lise does require a very high investment. Again, getting as a newer player to AFK Arena would make a big difference. Now, team comps. This, again, is somewhere that we really need to focus on. Now, you notice the primary damage dealers. So it says right here, early game is 1 DPS, 1 tank, 3 support, including the flex. Doesn't necessarily have to be support heroes. You can use a lot of crowd control. When you think of like a Pharrell, if you look at a Nara, those flexible support heroes, or really just those crowd control heroes, will make a really big difference. Now, a lot of players also were commenting today in chat about Rem. Garrison Rem ASAP. Honestly, when we look at the combination of running Rem or running Randy did come a little bit easier. Now, of course, when you start looking at the need, if you can get Rem early, that is going to work incredibly well. Even thinking of the flexibility within the tanks, because of what we ran within the free-to-play account, we actually ran Randy, and then we did run Aethys in there as our tank. We did have Brutus in there for a little bit, but ultimately Aethys was in there. And then we also do have Shemira as we're sitting right now. Now, interesting enough, we do not see Naruko in here. Naruko does very, very well. Now, also support, you can see we have Palmer already built. We have Jerome in here. We have Ivan. And then the 1 copy of Leica. Purple and gold borders are fine at 1 copy. Now, Brutus, of course, 1 copy. Even down here, 1 copy. And then the gold, even looking at Aethys and a couple other ones, 1 copy does work incredibly well. Main carry, now, of course, usually 20 to 40 levels above the rest. This is why we do have Randy on the free-to-play account completely built out. And then, of course, it is linked to Rem. So once we get to the point of being able to use Rem, gonna make a big difference on how these heroes are kind of built. Tanks absorb damage and draw attention, which, again, Thorin doesn't work incredibly well. We had Thorin early, which again, Thorin's not even in the wish list. This tank might not have the ability, but looking, Aethys is in the wish list. Getting that one single copy of Brutus, and then of course Chimera as a carry does work super well. Support is the buffer and the healer, really keeping everyone alive. And then the flex to stun, charm, freeze, displace. Like it says right here, usually crowd control or support heroes in here. Now, of course, this is very dependent on who you pull from the RNG factor. Now, if you're going in here, if you're doing summons, there could be an RNG factor where you do get another hero out of here, or even get a multitude of heroes. Like you've seen earlier, we got lucky with a copy of Mortis. We got lucky with a copy of the original version of Aziz. Did work incredibly well with informations. Troubleshooting tips, identify the threat. There is usually a high damage dealer. Looking at like the original version of Athalia, very hard. Positioning can definitely affect. Test and trial, and there is always an RNG. That is the reason why we have the auto battle, especially if you're 2 level. Now, AFK, we talked about this earlier again when we were doing the stream. Running in here and actually gaining more levels just simply being AFK. If you're simply too low on a level, regardless of kind of where you have the heroes built, it's going to be incredibly time consuming to get through a lot of the content. Then we go up here to the Stargazing. Don't Stargaze with diamonds until you have 15 meta heroes, not counting your dims. We're talking probably 3 of each faction. So even then you could do 12. 15 is essentially almost 4 of each faction. Some of the factions produce and really do a lot better than some of the others. If you look at Graveborn can do incredibly well even without the 15 meta. Awakened heroes, again, thinking of what we're summoning within our wish list, it's going to be incredibly difficult to go in there because essentially, if you look at light bearers, again, there are no tanks in there. It's going to be difficult to make progression in there. Now, 1 copy wonders. Gaze 1 copy when you hit Liberta with the M30. So once you have Liberta up to that plus 30 signature item, pick up 1 copy right here of Mahira. Mahira is used through all of the campaign progression. Absolutely pivotal. And then, of course, you can see right here, when you unlock the Nightmare Corridor using this one, when Liberta does hit Mythic 30, then pick up 1 copy, then it goes Demia, Aurelia, and of course, Nox. Now, one thing to note with Aurelia right in here, Aurelia does require a pretty big build, which I know a lot of players are not too keen to doing the very big build, but Aurelia does require a plus 40 signature item to be super effective, meaning it's going to be a very expensive. Awakened in Dragons, save 500 time emblems, take all the free sources of Hilduin, do not pull dragons unless advised by an experienced player, and hoard until the next release. Use time emblems to pull the awakened heroes until ascended. Stargazers to add stars, of course, on those awakened heroes. Consult an expert player when you're close to saving 500 time emblems. Now, as it sits today, thinking of time emblems, thinking of your awakened heroes, it is roughly costing about 400 to 450 time emblems because of the adjustment that we had, the 2.5% adjustment. Saving 500, in my opinion, is a little much. Now, the other thing to note with this is when you're saving 500, so if you're saving 500 emblems and you're spending months as a newer player saving 500 emblems, that is a crazy amount of resources that you could have, including the ability to get, the 30K diamonds, but getting all of your chests out of here, getting all of your red chests out of the summons, getting everything to essentially build up and run through a lot faster when it comes to the Ghoulish Gallery, using these resources. Now, again, when we think about Liberta being an absolute requirement, I would build out Liberta, and I am doing summons as soon as possible for Liberta, and we're doing the exact same with the Awakened version of Chimera. We're not saving the 500 time emblems, which you could. I mean, technically you could go in there, but honestly, right here is going to be the big one. Now, looking down here at the Garrison, you can see Rem needs SI20, 3 furniture, E30, and she will be the carry. To get to that point, she actually has to be ascended with 1 star, meaning up into the point of getting Rem to be the main carry. You're going to have a hero to essentially go in there and carry or link with Rem, like we did today with Rem and looking at Randy. The combination of those two, you're going to have a strong hero to be able to build out Rem in the entirety. Then we have Shuna. Then we have crowd control in here with Amelia. Then Rimuru. Albedo, I probably wouldn't build at this point in AFK Arena. Albedo, unfortunately, dropping a little bit further down the tier list. But remember, once you get Rem, you have to have Rem 6 times from the Garrison. Then you can actually get this hero for free. Now, looking over here, before level 160, you can actually build some of these. Now, again, it's going to make a big difference on the fodder heroes that you have in here up to 160, because even very early, we got multiple copies of a couple different heroes, meaning we could make a lot faster progression without having these fodder heroes built even before 160. I mean, we had heroes that were legendary plus long before the fodder. You don't extend it, and again, don't use ascended heroes as food. Legendary heroes are what you're going to do as food. As you can see right here, these are the fodder heroes. So once you do get a multitude of copies, you're going to be able to build them out. Try to avoid ascending heroes unless you have 8 copies of them. This, again, is going to take a long time to build. I really prioritize in what heroes we have. Just like they're saying right here, though, this is bad. You do not want to do this at all. You have a legendary, you have a legendary, you have a legendary, and all of your food, all of your fodder. So what I recommend is when you're going in here is really building out one until you get to the point of having one hero of each faction is going to be really the focus. Once you start making and get one of those heroes up to Mythic or Mythic Plus to unlock the signature item, makes a big difference. After 160, these heroes essentially will become the food for all of your heroes. Now, looking at the middle row, Ascension, you can see you need fodder here, fodder here. When it comes to your Celestials and Hypos, it is all about the exact same hero. There is no difference. Getting them to 1 star is your priority. And honestly, getting above 1 star, in my opinion, would be really imperative for your damage dealers. Anybody else, I would not recommend at all going over that 1 star. SI 30 priority, we have Ivan in here, we have Liberta, any Awakened hero, and then going on to Ulna Lavatoon, which again wasn't even in there to go ahead and prioritize the summon. Then take these heroes to SI 30. Well, essentially, I almost have Randy, and I do have Ivan at 20. I almost have Randy at a 30. Making a really big difference for progression-wise. Again, Liberta, we're so far off on copies, it's going to be a significant amount of time before we have him built. Any Awakened hero, the same. To get an Awakened hero up to Mythic is probably at this point going to take a couple of weeks. And then, of course, getting these built out. Now, pets, keep Seal until 18. This is one. So, Tails and Treats with Owl when they're 6. So again, in here, you can see we have Talisman in here. We also do have Seal, Panda, Owl, level 18 priorities. So for me personally, I went with the Seal, then we went with the Owl, then we went with the Panda Dumpty in here. You can see once you do get them to 6, which we're pushing the Owl, Owl's already at 3, but Seal will absolutely stay in there until 18. In here, again, it's kind of your preference. Again, I do like the Panda in here. I like the Owl, but overall, now Talisman doesn't get crowd control for a significant amount of time. Use Spice to take red highlighted pet to 18 in the entirety. And then, of course, Seal, Panda, Owl goes to 18, Talisman, and Treat Spectator. So these will actually go down in priority where the Panda and the Owl will increase. Other things to note, pick Iran for the Heroes Covenant. That's exactly what we did. Save Legacy of Grit to consult with an expert player for options. And again, these options are going to be super dependent on exactly what you get. Save Miracle Worker and Farewell Gift Totems to use them together until level 3 expiration buff gets unlocked. Always use Miracle Worker and Farewell Gift on the wish list. They're going to be incredibly important. Exchange red emblem chests from events. Of course, red emblems are going to be the beginning. Now, getting over here to the shops themselves. Looking at the store, like we said, with the time emblem, buying this out every single time you have the opportunity, using your gold for everything else, including the emblems. We've gotten to the point very fast within AFK Arena that gold doesn't really seem to be a problem at all anymore. So getting the gold, the silver, the shards. Now, of course, once you start unlocking the Field of Stars, it makes it a lot easier. Guild store purchase priority, time emblems, draconic insignias, absolutely. Then Hildwyn fragments all the way up to 1 star. Once you do get Hildwyn up to that 1 star, then I would go ahead and probably build out Eugene. But you can see your dimensional stones are in there as well, so we can Garrison Rem, making sure we have that hero, whatever stones or dim gear you need. And honestly, dimensional gear doesn't really make a big difference. Buy which one of these you need the most. Now, honestly, I wouldn't buy the stones at all, The reason being, you do get a lot of chests going through progression, does make a big difference. Now, of course, when it comes to mythic gear within the guild store, do not buy it at all. The only thing that would be worth it would be the dimensional gear, as you can see right here. Now, prioritizing the dimensional exchange event, and then looking at Joan, then your dim stones. Now, Joan, fundamentally, when you start getting outside of essentially that one, kind of the one-off part of having one team going into two teams, Joan is going to be very, very important as a support hero. A lot of utility, a lot of survivability, going to make a big difference getting those copies of Joan. And then, of course, going back into the dim stones, random totems, then your dim emblems, which, of course, are going to focus on building out Rem. We have Shuna, a lot of other ones. Then the red emblems as the priority. Now, Challenger Store, you can see it is Ulna. Now, even as of today, Ulna is making a really, really big improvement there. Then we have Amelia in there, Albedo, you can see future dimensional heroes, Mortis, one copy, and then the rest of these, honestly, you don't really need any more because we used to have them because of what we had essentially to unlock within the Ghoulish Gallery. As it sits right now, you could get Mortis as a buffer, you could get Aziz, Merlin, again, having another copy, but the rest of the heroes, not really a lot of utility within here. So I hope it helps explain. I know a lot of players were seeing this and looking at this. A big shout out to everyone. Noob Survival Guide, AFK Arena Discord. We have Mr. Pimpler Daniel, General Anxiety, and everyone else that helped really build this guide. It's really, really cool to see putting it together. Like I said, a couple of adjustments and changes that I would have made in the formation, especially looking like at Aurelia and then looking at what we have in the wish list with Rain. I'm not seeing a crazy amount of effectiveness, but Rain does require the build up. So does Adrian Elise, requires, you know, getting the furniture on there and building up a high level signature item, which there are so many heroes that are prioritized above and beyond what we see. So, all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.